Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of WCM's Outdoor Hospitality Update. And I think I blew out my eardrum. I had my headphones on too high, and when that beginning started, I think I blew out my eardrum. But I can hear it just fine, so that's good. But welcome to another show. I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and then of course my co-host Mike Gass, former vice president of communications for Campground of America, and he's currently, what are you? You're the editor or writer?
I'm a senior writer with
Senior writer.
rvtravel.com.
Okay. And you have to do a lot of work to get the senior in front of that writer.
Well, I think it's
a
more
lot of
age
years.
related than
Yeah,
experience.
more age. So our guests today, Jennifer Mason and Shane Devenish. I guess I'll let you guys introduce yourself. We can just start with Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Mason from Point South KOA in southern South Carolina. We're a Holiday on I-95, and we are about 33 miles north of Savannah, Georgia.
All right. And Shane?
Yeah, I'm Shane, and it's great to be here. I'm the president of the Canadian RV Association and the interim director of the Canadian Camping and RV Council from Burlington, Ontario.
Yeah. And Shane, you're getting used to doing these shows. I think I see you on a lot of shows, not just, you're on this one. I know there's a Fireside Chat show that you're on quite a bit. And I think you've been doing just a lot of meetings in general through this format. So
must be a lack of other alternatives.
But I think we wanted to dive into Snowbirds this show, and I mean, it's hard to believe. I live in southern Michigan. It's hard to believe that it's already winter. It's getting to be winter. I mean, we're into the fall, and winter's not too far away. And I absolutely hate winter. So I hate snow. And I live in southern Michigan, so I really need to find a way to maybe move to like South Carolina, Jennifer, where you're at, where there's a lot less snow. So, but we're getting into winter, and obviously the snowbird parks are gearing up for what's expected to be a pretty busy season. We just published an article yesterday on our website, woodallcm.com, that highlighted some of the good trends going for the snowbird parks we spoke with. But I guess, Shane, I just kind of wanted to start with, what's going on at the border. I mean, I guess it's all on our end now. We were hearing, on the Canadian side for a while, and you guys have opened, and now I don't know if we're going to open anytime soon. So I guess.
Yeah, we've been watching. I was just on right before this, a call with the Tourism Industry Association of Canada. And, they're somewhat encouraged by yesterday's announcement as far as the vaccines that the U.S. is going to look for, and the fact that mixed vaccines, or I should say AstraZeneca, will be accepted. But there's still question about mixed vaccines, which is, we're trying to get clarification on. Now, even they don't know what the U.S. is going to decide here on October 21st. They saw some underlying, I guess, messages there with the announcement yesterday that that they think that at some point in time in November, the border will open up for Canadians to go south. So I guess that's not the best news for us, but it's still good news to allow our campers to get south.
So Jennifer, tell us a little bit about what the natural flow is for your campground, which is sort of at a great spot to be a stopping point for folks on their way down from Canada to Florida for the winter. Is in a typical year, are you into it already? Are you seeing a lot of snowbirds go by?
We are. Advanced reservations for the next 4 months are in triple-digit upward trends. Wow. It is very little occupancy. Our snowbirds have already begun. We have people that have full-time now that weren't before, and we have road schoolers now. So we have families that are out there full-time doing road schooling. We have people that are getting back to the basics of life, so they are minimizing and they're on the road more, going back to more time with family, more memories, more experience. So we are seeing snowbirders already having trouble getting in. And I think that's the biggest challenge right now because of the massive amount of new new travelers and new RVer families in the industry on top of what we've already had, and that the inventory itself hasn't grown as fast as the RVers on the road. So we are seeing those advanced reservations. They are up incredibly, triple digits through February, double digits all the way to the end of December of next year. So we're seeing this trend grow and grow. We are a smaller park, but we do a lot of snowbirds in and out of Florida. We're 3 hours, super easy to Jacksonville, 6 hours to Orlando. So halfway point to where their destination is for the winter. We miss our Canadians. We love our Canadians. We have every year, we're going our 38th season. Wow. And having these guests come in and through, we have transferred a little bit to where we were. If you know our branding in KOA, the journey is an overnight. We're an overnight park, but we've marketed a lot for multiple nighters. So we have a lot of people staying multiple nights, 7, 10, 21 days to see the area. And so we have these snowboarders come over, they come through, they'll do one night on their way in or out, but then they'll also say, oh my goodness, you're in between Savannah, Beaufort, Charleston, Hilton Head, and they'll stay 5 and 10 and 21 days. So we are seeing a tremendous uptick. Like I said, we've tremendously missed the Canadians. We do quite a bit with Quebec and Toronto and that whole region coming in and out every season. So the inventory, I think, is the biggest challenge. And then just as they come through, understanding that we're in more of a conservative state, so we've done very well. A lot of things are open. Florida is, but on their way down, they're going to have different requirements for the different states and the different towns and cities that they go through and people go through as they move around the country.
Jennifer, are you seeing some cancellations from Canadian snowbirds, or folks that are just giving up and not going to wait anymore?
We have this last 16 months. Last year it was a big dump of a lot over the board cancellations. We have very few Canadians this last 12 months just because the border has not opened up and they don't know what to do. So we have a few that have come through and out, but we have seen a significant decline. We probably are at 1 to 2% now, maybe, of Canadians. It's very, very low. Whereas before it was 6 to 10%.
I mean, I've been reading these stories about some of these snowbirds, Canadian snowbirds, they're going to fly down and they're going to ship their RV. I guess, Shane, is that is that a large percentage of people will do that, or is that like a very small minority of people? That's expensive.
Yeah, it can be. We're hearing about it more and more, but I still think it's a pretty small minority. Our campgrounds generally, a lot of them closed actually today, right after our Thanksgiving, which was this past weekend. Mm-hmm. But some still are open up until the end of October. So I think they're still hopeful that things are going to change here in the next week or so, and then decide to come down. So Jennifer, hopefully you see that that percentage go back up. But yeah, I think we're seeing more do that, especially there's more companies offering to do it, especially around Niagara Falls, where they'll fly people over from Niagara Falls, Canada in a helicopter and ship their unit over, in a commercial vehicle. So people are getting a little creative to get back down south.
I've actually heard that over the last year. We've had a few of those here in the campground.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't think it's a significant number because of the expense and the impact. And then also when they get the border, they have to have either the negative COVID test or 14-day quarantine before they can go back, which is can be an issue too.
So Shane, have you seen any decrease in folks or any delay in the lifestyle? The people that are just saying, "Oh, I'm not going to go into the full-timing snowbirding lifestyle right now"?
That's a good question, Mike. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm certainly fearful of that. But thankfully, we're hopefully near the tail end of this. So, people, that'll all be in our past, and we don't have to worry about it. Hopefully, again, I think we're going to see more people enter the lifestyle getting out of this because, I think a lot of people are leaving their jobs and looking to travel and enjoy life again. So I think we're going to see an increase in the number that we're seeing today because of it.
What happens to the snowbirds that have to stay in Canada, that live full time in their RVs? I guess, like, where do they go if they stay in Canada?
Yeah, last year the Canadian Camping and RV Council worked out somewhat of a discounted deal with the Hotel Association of Canada to offer some alternatives. We saw a lot of snowbirds flock to BC, where it's warmer temperatures. They're probably stayed there. Our BC parks are reporting, that they had a pretty decent year. But there's very few campgrounds across Canada outside of BC that are open all year round. There's a few, but just because of our temperatures and the way our infrastructure is built, it just can't keep everything operating. So, they phone friends, relatives, sons, daughters. Can I park in your driveway? And they'll be creative as best they can. But hopefully, fingers crossed, they won't be able to have to do that this year.
So Shane, as the pandemic changed what a snowbird looks like, are they getting younger? Are you seeing more people that are getting into the lifestyle that are still working, can take their jobs with them now?
I think it's a trend for sure. We haven't done a recent survey. We've talked to Gorving about maybe doing some kind of a study similar to what RVIA did in the U.S. just to get a better grasp on the demographic. We're certainly seeing the younger buyers for sure get into the industry. We're seeing more people look at buying a unit and not having to go to their office. They're going to work from the unit. Absolutely. Just don't know how many at this point. I can say it's probably growing for sure. There was just on a newscast on Friday about this person young lady used to work in an office, and she's renting Airbnbs, one in Toronto and then moving to somewhere else. So yeah. I think it's going to be a trend. More businesses up here as well are just saying, hey, we're going to allow people to work from home more often.
So Jennifer, what about you? Have you seen a different sort of snowbird coming through yet?
We have a lot of younger families that are coming through that are deciding they want to go to the full-time lifestyle and do road schoolers instead of homeschoolers, which I believe was the new term dubbed through COVID. And also a ton of new RVers that have bought these motorhomes. And so it's a big learning curve of where they go, how they set up, what they do coming through. So there's a lot of newbies in the industry as well that we are integrating into this whole lifestyle, not only as overnight travelers, but as snowbirders and more long-term. So we have seen a shift in the whole industry from, your seasoned retired age to younger families and different segments that take a part of the year to be snowbirders down there as a younger family, or throughout the whole, just live in their motorhome full-time, their RV full-time. So we have definitely seen this shift of just a huge influx.
Yeah, I think that here I'm going to post the story we had up yesterday about the snowbird issue, and in that story, KOA Campgrounds of America kind of that millennials and Gen Z campers are just they're more willing to work. They're looking at doing more snowbird type travel. 36% of American millennial campers indicate that they plan to snowbird. So, I mean, that's quite a few millennials hitting the road and looking to travel this winter. So we can definitely see some things changing there as well. So
Jennifer,
cool.
do you see any change in the pattern as Florida fills up and as they just run out of spots down there? Do you see the snowbird phenomenon overflowing north a little bit?
I do.
Capturing you?
Absolutely. So we're a boutique campground. We only have 57 sites, one of the smaller ones in the KOA system, but we pack a pretty big punch. And we do not do monthlies, weeklies, or seasonals, but we have people staying for 5, 10, 21, 30 days in our deluxe patio site, and they pay per night, and they're willing to do it. And they want that experience. They want to have the outdoor hospitality, because we've gone beyond the campground to giving them the full embodiment of what it means to actually camp and to get connected with the outdoors, with each other, with friends. We have a lot of self-running activities that they get to mingle together. And we've seen this boost that has created a whole different atmosphere, but also an expectation. So I think that we need to step up to the plate and understand what they want, which is a lot driven by reviews to see what are they looking for, what we're missing, what we're hitting, and what we need to build on. So it's interesting. It's a great and fun time, challenging time, of course, to be in this industry, but it's growing massively and exponentially, both in volume and levels of where we have to bring our parks, but the volume of people that are coming in and how long they're willing to stay just to be a part of your experience.
Yeah, I think I think it's interesting too. I think the 55 plus parks had a rough year last year, just because there wasn't a lot of 55 plus snowbirds traveling around, and this year it looks like they're booking up. So snowbird traffic in general is just really picking up, and I think RVing in general is just. I don't think it's going to slow down during the winter months. People are just going to head to warmer weather.
So
That is
Shane,
very true.
go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That is very true. And we are seeing those snowbirds that were hemmed in for that year, and they are ready to go. They're vaccinated. They're on the road. And I think obviously that's why American numbers are so high. We're just waiting for that border to open for the Canadians to feel comfortable to go in and out and move. And once they move, it's going to be a huge influx, and that we need to be ready for them. And that it has created the mass core of where they are to spread, like you indicated, Mike, that it is pouring into South Carolina and Georgia, because our weather, southern, is more temperate, definitely. So we are seeing those, not only the retired folks, but anywhere from your G's to your X generations, and then even families that are younger. And they have a little bit, they're ready to spend on experiences. So we have more going to Disney, and then coming back and staying for, the weeks here, go to Disney for a couple of weeks and come back, because they're much more mobile.
So Shane, are you seeing equipment problems, RV equipment problems up in Canada that we're seeing down the States? Is it easy to get an RV in Canada right now?
No, it's pretty similar, Mike, to the problems that dealers are experiencing in the U.S. as up here. I just drove by, one who normally would have 30 or 40 units in the lot, and they had maybe less than 6. It's a concern for sure, and especially for RV shows, maybe the first quarter. Our dealer is going to be able to replenish their inventory enough. But for the first 6 months, we saw retail activity pretty strong. But I'm seeing the last 2 months with July and August not as strong, I think, just because dealers didn't have that inventory to sell.
I know a lot of them get pretty creative with how they're displaying on their lots,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, I guess on the quality side, have you been hearing about the need for more technicians and different things up in Canada, I guess, to meet that quality demand?
Yeah, we're struggling with colleges that can train apprentices up here. We have 2, one in BC and one in Alberta. The Ontario RV Dealers Association is trying to get something going here in Ontario, but we desperately need more college programs up here, because there's a real shortage of quality technicians for sure. I know some send their guys down to the U.S. if they can. really haven't been able to in the last couple of years. But that RV TI and Elkhart, I think would, might be an option for some. But I think it would be great to have more availability for training up here. It's a real struggle.
So, Jennifer, do you get your staff locally, or are you reliant on full timers coming in?
We are relying on full timers coming in. We have doubled our staff since 2016, and so sometimes that is a challenge just to get that. We're up to 15 work campers that live on site. So that's pretty big stuff for 47 usable sites. And then we have 4 that are local, including me, because I work all the time too, but that goes. So, we have 19 people on staff this season. We've been short. Sadly, we had 4 in the hospital with COVID this summer. 2 did great. 2 were in there for 10 weeks, and they had to leave early because they had to go home and they had to do their therapies at home because the motorhome is just not a place to recover from respiratory issues. So, because we have the retired sec that typically works for us, they're a little more vulnerable. We have a very strong staff regardless. Everybody stepped up the plate. So staffing is typically an issue. Fortunately, we've been able to stream along because we have been full since February, and they've been able to step up to the plate and meet those demands. We're open 13 hours a day, 365 days a year. We've only been closed 20 days in 38 years, and that's when the hurricanes go. So we have a lot of layers, a lot of stuff going on. So we're very, very fortunate and thankful for our staff, but it is a challenge. And 96% of all of our staffing is work campers.
So Shane, do you see a lot of campers up there, RVers, full timers that just can't find a place to stay down south in the United States right now?
We haven't heard that complaint. But hearing, this conversation here about the increase in the number of snowbirds that are now in the U.S., could be a future, concern for sure. We hear about lack of campsites up here, more so at this point. But the more people get in this industry, if we can't develop more campgrounds in both of our countries, then it's going to be a problem. So, when the border opens and be like the start of Daytona 500 or whatever, and everybody booting down across the border, we'll watch what their comments are. Hey, I can't find anything down here either. So hopefully that's not the case.
I guess Jennifer, you mentioned your park's been in business for almost 40 years. I guess, have you always attracted this much snowbird traffic? And maybe you already mentioned this during this time of year, or like during the winter months, I guess.
Absolutely. Okay. We've always been a snowbird park. But we've been more overnight, going to Florida to stay. We've had in the past years some snowbirds throughout the winter that have stayed here from New York and those various areas. Very limited because we're a smaller park, so probably about 10% of our inventory. But since 2016, we have had no space. So they come in overnight, or they'll pay per night and stay for a week or 3 weeks. But then we're not their destination for snowbirds, but we are the place where they stop going in and going out. So what's interesting is pre-COVID, March and April is what I always called our Christmas, because all the snowbirders are leaving this will be our 38th March and April, 39th March and April. So that was always, we are turning them all away, make your reservations, and for even one night, and we will get you set up. And so I don't know what that looks like, because it's been basically March and April since February, since people have started moving. We have just been filling up to capacity, sending them to different parks. We would love to expand, but we're kind of landlocked at this point. So they're good problems, but it's also frustrating. So I'm telling everybody, make your reservations ahead. When Canadian borders open, my biggest suggestion to them is to get their itinerary out and start booking and make sure that they have them, because I'm having people now that are booking in March and April that want to stay 4 and 5 and 7 days. And right now we can do it, but I don't know how much longer as we approach those days. So I know their hands are tied, but just when they know. And I even tell the people in the States, when you know, let us know. Someone's leaving this morning and they'll be back in April. I'm like, let us know when you know, as fast as you know. I want you to be able to get in, because I hate that we don't, because there's a lot of repeat business.
Maybe you're landlocked, so maybe it's time to do like a parking garage thing where you just start like stacking.
Stack them? Oh, gorgeous.
Stack them. I guess one of the things, the research, I guess we haven't done, maybe this is something we could do for WCM at some point, is research, how far up snowbirds are coming now, maybe, where traditionally it was Florida, Texas, Arizona, but now Georgia's seeing more. Obviously you've always had some in South Carolina. I wonder, if Tennessee parks are seeing more snowbirds, maybe they stay up there and they drive down a little bit further to do things and then come back. I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting to see, since parks are selling out, if people are looking at different destinations than they normally would have.
I would think Alabama. It depends on Tennessee. So it gets really cold pretty fast. Lower North Carolina, maybe. I don't know. But it would be an interesting research to do across the whole country.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, I've known your dad for a long time, so I know who raised you and who trained you. And when you talk about being that full and that far out on your reservations, what's it do on an owner's side? What's it do to your rate structures? Is it sheer supply and demand, and you try to manage it that way?
It's absolutely Econ 101. Supply and demand. And we also look at what they want and what we can give them. So we look at value. What are they going to get for what we charge? And then we charge that price and make sure we deliver. And it's something that they're going to want to be here, but yet they're going to get everything back with that price. So I do my the robust pricing based on futures. Where are we looking at? Where's our advanced reservations, and how are we doing socially as far as where we come from where we've been. And, our March and April was always higher, but now we're filled November, December, January. So those are going to look like your March and April rates with the increase of inflation, because everything is costing more. And with having all of these parks, there's another dichotomy to this whole with the staffing issue, is everybody's getting busier in the United States, which means everybody needs more staffing, which means it gets more competitive. And we have had not as many work campers come into the industry as we have the need for staffing. So now we have to think outside of the box. How can we draw them when it's 110 degrees in South Carolina to come down and spend 6 months with us? And when everybody is open in the whole country, that they can go to a better region, because that's why we're down here from Chicago. So we wanted to get away from all that snow you were talking about and such. We're permanent snowbirds. That's why I want to be a summer bird. But so it everything definitely has a yin and a yang and a supply and demand. So we're looking at that as well. So we've increased our staffing, which means it takes more to run the park, which means it costs more to run the park. So the pricing is definitely based on supply and demand, and then what it takes to give what they want and what we tell them we give them and more to meet that expectation, which is a constant challenge, because you want to stay ahead of it while you're still competitive and while you still have the value for what you have to charge. And with gas prices and with all of these things going up and the supply chain being broken, that creates issues too. Because Mike, we have a pizza shop and a wine bar and a coffee bar, local beer and tap with our own area's ale. So we've got to make sure all of that. We can get the smoothies, but they can't get the containers. We can get the chlorine, but they can't get the boxes to ship it. So it's ridiculous stuff like that. So you need to stay ahead of the curve to make sure you have enough inventory. And then you have enough people to manage all that inventory. So there's a lot of layers, which is why we have so many people on staff. But to recruit and retain, you have to stay cutting edge. And that's something that, we are just learning as we go. And then we have a really good staff, but even at half staff, they do really well. We just one day at a time, one guest at a time, one review at a time, but it has definitely evolved, and it is something we keep an eye on constantly. constantly, so that they want to be here and that we can put back into the park so that they still want to come back.
It looks like Barry Downey message. He said you guys need a great steakhouse at exit 33 where you're located.
We need so many things at exit 33. We need a great steakhouse and we need a great rib place, all of it. I totally get it. I was on the tourism commission for several years. My dad was on the tourism commission for 15 years. We've been on county council and approached them. We have done everything as advocates to do it at this corner. It's just time. We've been here 38 years and we're still working on it. If I could make it happen, I have talked to him. I totally get it. I do.
Maybe you could open a steakhouse, Jennifer, at the park.
I want to. There's so many things. The shop and we deliver to the flights and chicken wings. There's so many things I want to do, but I just need to be cloned.
Yeah, it's all tied together. So Shane, what's the desperation level of snowbirds up in Canada right now? Are there some of them that you would anticipate are going to just throw in the towel and say this is just getting too hard?
Yeah, I hope not. Desperation level between 0 and 10. 10 being I'm ready to jump off a ledge. They're probably maybe 6 at this point. All signs are pointing to the next sometime in November opening up. So, having gone through it last year, they'll just have to make those calls again and do what they can. But I think people are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel at this point, and hopefully that happens in November.
I don't want to get political, but I guess for me personally, I'm surprised we're in this situation. I guess based off of like last year, I assumed when Canada opened up their border that we would be right on top of that too. And so it's kind of flipped a little bit, and it's kind of interesting, just the whole dichotomy of where we're at and different things. So
yeah, well, there's a school of thought that the prime minister up here wanted to have the border opened right before his election call. So it's traditionally on the 21st of every month. Well, he called the election on August 19th and opened the border on around August 11th. So, but anyway,
well, we don't have another
not to get political.
We don't have another one of those for 3 years, so let's hope they open the border before then.
Well, no kidding.
Yes. For sure.
So, but I guess on the Snowbird side, Jennifer, I guess what do you obviously do quite a bit of activities at your park? I guess do you do different things during the summer than you do during the winter? I guess because of the different types of RVers that come.
No, because we have something for every age group, and it's all relatively self-run. So everybody has a little pocket of what they can do. So we've really worked on that and built that over the years so that people can come and go as they want, because we're also in between all of these great cities to go and visit. So they do a lot of day trips as well into Savannah and Charleston and Hilton Head. So we've got enough for them to do on the park, but a lot to do outside. So it just lopes along through this seasons. We don't really do much differently from Snowbirds.
Do you have any like partnerships with any of like those travel destinations or anything, like with buses going in and out to help them get around, or do they mainly just handle that all on their own?
So we're pretty rural, so we don't have anybody to pick them up, but we do have partnerships where they get $5 off of the trolley in Savannah and free parking. I've got a very robust links on the website to half off prices in Savannah and half price offs in Charleston. In our every roofed accommodation and in our bistro, we have directory books, and it tells them where to go and how to get there. And then we have all of these maps. So we self-guide them or we walk them through it, and then we link them and we try to give them some good ideas and some good coupons and such that they can go through half price. And then they're driven by those websites in the various cities. So we're foodie and homeschools, all road schools, got a lot of different things going on.
So Jennifer, when do you typically see the flow reverse in the spring? When do they start hitting back home?
You know, pre-COVID, it was completely dependable and predictable. Absolutely. Middle when Daytona started on the 500 and was that in December, and I'm sorry, February, mid-February, it started ticking up, and then March and April 100% full. May's a little slower because snowbirders are basically where they want to go, and kids aren't out of school yet. And then middle of June to the middle of August, we have all of our families coming, going in and out to Disney, Universal. They'll come to this area for a few days. But I'm telling you, we don't know what it looks like anymore because there's no true pattern. So we are feeling our way in what that looks like post-COVID because we just are busy all of the time. I mean, last night on a Monday, we were turning people away that were coming in that used to the year and a half ago, 2 years ago, they could come in on a Monday in October and get a site. Maybe not on Friday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, but Monday, not a problem. I felt so badly. I had to turn them away. I had nothing. It's like nothing. I said, I have one site that could fit your truck. And that was actually just the van that came in. And that was it. So a Monday in October, but so more kitten, more families on the road. We don't know what that pattern looks like. And we're just feeling our way through. And so we are just working in.
What does that look like on the market? I mean, so we've talked to a lot of parks. They're packed, they're packed, they're overflowing. They got huge wait lists. I mean, what's that look like on the marketing front? I mean, do you pull back on the marketing reins, or do you?
Not really, because I go full board because you want to fill in, you want to get new people interested because you don't know how long you're going to ride this wave. And you want everybody that knows about you, you're going to get them interested in the area. And my thing is there's so many people. Let's get them involved all over this country and into Canada, see what's going on. So we do robust marketing. We have a percentage of our budget that goes to marketing. So we are very strong marketers, and we feel that it's something that we push. Now, of course, when we're busy, I don't have as much time to push different things out. But I'm staged to the point because we've been doing it so long that I can go in there and we can push that out. But I do a lot of robustness on our webpage so that they can access that. But also we are one of the top, it's easy to find us on Google. So it used to be called the Google favorite place. So now if you just put I-95 camp or glamp or camping or campground in Google, you don't have to put KOA, you don't have to put South Carolina, we'll be one of the number ones up. So that is super important for everybody to have a very robust presence. And that is through a lot of guerrilla marketing and TripAdvisor and social media and web pages and responding to those reviews, Google, NPS, whatever platform you use to be involved. So
Jennifer, how far out is your calendar right now as far as booking? How far out can people book?
Right now we're December 31st of 2022, and I'm getting ready to open it up to January. I like to do it I used to do it a year in advance, but we're leaving money on the table. So I'm doing it more to 14 to 16 months, and they're booking it. And we're, our cancellations aren't, they're not worth not doing it. Let's put it that way. We need to keep that calendar open. So then you've got to look at your pricing. What is it going to look like in January of 2023, right? So you've got to look at those timeframes as well. And then we're adding more deluxe patio sites. We're adding 2 more. So that'll give us 5. And then, we have 4 lodges, 5 cabins, and then your different layers of tents. So, and I've got lots of ideas that I want to do stuff, but one day at a time.
Do you do the dynamic pricing?
I do.
Do you have a computer that helps you with the pricing, or do you change it on your own?
So within the system that the franchise that KOA provides, we can manipulate it that way. So there's a lot of different ways I can do it. Sometimes we do a percentage. Sometimes I go through and throughout the season and I see that I need to control the influx. So I'll raise it a particular 25 cents or 10 cents and then look at that across the board and what needs to go up and what needs to go down. And so it's a constant viewpoint of where we at right now, where we're going to be in January and where we're going to be in March and then next June. So it's to be honest, it's learn as you go, and it's a gut feeling, and it's looking at your advanced reservations, where you've been and where you're going, and to connect with people that are smarter than you and talk to them, right? And work that way. But it's something you definitely have to stay on top of for the guests.
Shane, how concerned is your organization that these new these new RVers are just going to get tired of the difficulty and just what Jennifer said? When you've got to figure out what you're going to be doing a year and a half out, is that something they're going to tolerate?
It's really difficult. Even shorter than that, Mike. We're hearing people just want to book in the next 6 months and they can't find anything. For example, our provincial parks here in Ontario, they opened up their booking, and I'm going to say somewhere like March, April, and there was a waiting list in the thousands online. It's a concern. We need more campgrounds up in Canada, more campsites, and I think the frustration is definitely starting to increase from RV owners that they can't find anything. Not to mention Snowbirds that we were talking about, find something in a normal year to go down south, but even in their backyard. So yeah, we're concerned. There's a lot of red tape, I'll tell you, government red tape to develop a campground, and we keep on trying to push that message at all levels of government, because it really is an economic driver to have a campground in your community, in your municipality, because the ripple effect for other businesses around that area is tremendous. And yet you see some municipalities try to increase their tax rate, or put some kind of a different tax on the unit, and campground owners are just taxed to death. And we're seeing some guys just say forget it. Fortunately, not a lot, or many, but we are seeing some that are getting frustrated. So it's a concern all over.
Yeah, I know it's a big concern down here as well. I mean, I think when I talk with park owners, the zoning, park developers, the zoning and permitting process, I mean, it can be really difficult, especially depending on the area and the residents, and people, have misconceptions of what a campground or RV park is. And I know Arvik had mentioned at the beginning of the year that they were anticipating over 50,000 sites being added to parks and campgrounds and through new developments this year alone. And I haven't caught up with Arvik yet for an end of the year update, but it'll be interesting to see what they have to say as to how that all came to fruition. And 50,000 campsites seems like a lot of campsites, but at the same time, they just can't get them up and running fast enough. And I know, when I was at the glamping show USA, for instance, there was just a ton of demand on the glamping side of things too, and there are plenty of developers there that are building as quickly as possible, trying to meet the demand. And it's amazing what's happening in the industry right now. So I don't know how you build the sites any quicker than what they're trying to do right now. So they're trying to meet the demand. It's just the explosion in the RV market it's just crazy right now. So.
And I must interject and agree that advocacy is so important on local and state and national levels for making it easier to build these sites. So we were going to do an expansion of 9 sites. We could have done a whole park for what we're going to do, 9 sites. And so I think, when COVID started, and I told my staff, I said, we have to, even after being here so long, we have to educate the banks at what we want. We're going to have to educate the government. And obviously that was true, right? So, what camping means, what campgrounds do. And so to make it easier would be a lot better for the trajectory of getting these sites open, because it takes so long. And to be honest, we just decided it wasn't worth it for us, which was really sad. It took us about 2 years to get over it. We finally did. But we do hit, as owners, we do hit a lot of brick walls. That is the ROI. The ROI on that amount of money is not worth what we wanted and needed to do. So it's not that we don't necessarily want to do it.
It's also the education part too, because a lot of the zoning and permitting people, they've never had experience with the RV park or campgrounds. They, what that building process looks like, and that's where like RVIC or state association comes in and hopefully helps to educate people. This isn't like a mobile home park or anything. I mean, they got these rigs that they're selling now. Even like the smaller travel trailers are 30,000-40,000 now, and the prices have went up. These people are investing a lot of money in these RVs, and they're looking for a nice experience, with the RV. Some of these motorhomes are going for like 400,000 or 500,000 or more now, which is crazy to me. I can't imagine owning a $500,000 motorhome. They're pretty nice though, units. So, but maybe Mike, your family in the back there, it looks like they have a pretty nice motorhome.
That's my brother-in-law hasn't moved now in 4 weeks. He just sits there and sucks on that finger.
So, but it's just amazing the site, demand right now. There are sites available, but for the last minute RVer, it's really difficult. So, well, I think that pretty much is all the topics we had for today, I think.
Yeah, and I really want to thank both Shane and Jennifer for joining us today. It's a fascinating discussion. It's got geopolitical implications as we go through this, and I can't imagine the anxiety of a Canadian snowbird that has a spot reserved down in Florida and can't get there right now, even though and I don't even know if I'd want to try driving across upstate New York in November. So it's going to be a dicey season this year to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, luckily the weather doesn't get too bad in those types of climates in November. At least the last couple of years hasn't been too snowy, but hopefully they can get the border open here in the next week or two, and they can begin heading down south before it gets super icy. So, but thanks Shane and Jennifer for coming on. Next week we're going to be talking about how campgrounds can fulfill what millennial families are looking for. Those outdoor experiences. I know Trent Hershenson from Jellystone Park is coming on, and we're still trying to lock in another guest. So that should be pretty exciting, especially since we've seen the millennial family numbers uptick, and we're also seeing more road schoolers, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about them next week as well. So Mike, Jennifer, Shane, thanks for being here, and thanks everyone for watching, and we hope everyone has a great rest of the week.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.